Are you able to see my screen? Yeah. Are you able to see my screen? So we had some basic idea on what exactly the concept of data model speaks mean. Okay. We really did not see the data model in the concept of ER diagram or anything, but the basic idea, like what represents a data model, is clear to us, and how data model makes the fundamental idea of understanding the system or understanding the information behind the system we have been capturing. Okay, we'll make ourselves more fundamentally intelligent in those areas as we get matured. Let us not worry. But first, believe one thing: for any business environment, if you are expecting that it should be computerized and you have to collect the data in a digitalized form, the first level system that is always developed is basically a relational database management system. Sir, we have now in the markets columnar databases, NoSQL constructs, and everything. Remember one point, trust me, if you cannot understand the concept of RDBMS and the practical way of implementing RDBMS and operating with RDBMS, thinking that you can work with any other specification where data management is taking place and becoming an expert in that, starting from the level of developer to the architect, is impossible, man. Extraordinarily, 10% people may succeed even if they don't know, but 90% people will suffer. That's what I'm saying. If you want to come into the world of data management that is very highly in demand today, you should know what is your roadmap. Without keeping a roadmap, because somebody is learning AML, I want to learn AML. You may learn AML, you may work with AML for maybe 1 or 2 projects. After that, you will come back once again, square root to 1, you will come back, because as your experience grows, when the system expects that you should understand not just the technology, but design and development through the technology, you will have suffering. That is what is happening with the major number of seniors in the industry today. So, relational database management systems may look very obsolete. But remember, your journey starting from here can make more better as you go through your scalability in the career. You do not start properly from the relational database management systems. Beginning with a job can be okay, but sustaining your job and keeping your career in growth and security for keeping that particular piece of the job can be really difficult factor that you'll realize after you enter into the industry. As your experience grows on, you'll start catching up the heat. So what are the relational database management system properties? Means if you're saying that you're having any particular software and you're operating with that particular software, which is a relational database, then technically, what are the properties you can find anywhere? Sitting in my class, you're learning Oracle. Maybe your friend could be learning MS SQL Server and somebody can be MySQL. But if you say these are all RDBMS integrated or RDBMS oriented software technologies, then they all have one single common language that is fundamentally called as SQL. They all have one single fundamental language called as what? SQL. So anytime you say it's a relational database, it should be accessed and modified by executing SQL statements only. Sir, when all the relational database management system technologies, they are fundamentally operating with the same language called as SQL, then why we should have so many different number of RDBMs? Language is same. Features and facilities could be differing. But What language you are fundamentally using, that is a common language in any of these RDBMS implementations. Am I clear? So what is my advantage now? Let us understand one thing. I am learning Oracle, let us say. What is the language we'll be learning with Oracle now? SQL. If once I learn SQL and I'm part of my Oracle today, maybe after working for 2 or 3 projects in Oracle, my company suddenly had the next client, which is basically an RDBMS requirement only, but he is expecting that he wants a technology to be developed using MS SQL Server. My luck favored, my company transported me into that particular project, which is MS SQL Server. Do I need to really get worried and start learning everything from scratch once again? Definitely not. No doubt I need to put some small amount of effort to understand that environment. Mean that is only 10% effort if I keep. My 90% of the previous experience of the projects can make me work like an expert in that environment also. That's the beauty if you are learning your RDBMS, because wherever you go in the world, a common single individual language called as SQL will be there. And what RDBMS demands now, you have any data relevant to your business, your data should be collected in the form of tables. So it should contain a collection of tables with no physical pointers. One table's data can be related with another table's data, but nowhere the data will be in physical pointers based relationship. So do I need to go and work at the address level of the architecture now? Do I need to go and work at the address level of the architecture? No, it's not necessary. And any RDBMS will have a set of operators, where majority of the set of operators are very common to the common sense of the human being as he has been using in his academics. And these set of operators, by 98%, they are exactly the same and in similar state when you go to any other RDBMS, where only the construct of the vendor is changing. Okay, your vendors are changing, but the technological software is RDBMS oriented. Your set of operators are same. Maybe few operators more according to the necessity, but technically 99% all the operators will be same. I need to store my data in the table definitely in the form of records arranged by columns, but I don't need to specify the access route to the tables at any point of time. Means I don't need to mention this table is in C drive or D drive or that directory or this directory. No physical operating system like paths will be provided. We will just call the name of the corresponding table, where the name of the tables can be nearest to the common sense of the business and the human being understanding. So once you call the table and keep it associated a proper SQL statement, the SQL statement physically will check where the table is existing and completes the task. So throughout my life, when I'm part of my RDBMS, I need to only remember the object names, or I need to remember my technology and its internal architecture also. Hello. I need to only remember my object names or internal technology and architecture also. I just need to work with the table names, that is object names, that's all. Internal technology and architecture is your personal interest. But what I suggest is, if you're keeping your experience, man, please be very, very clear. As your experience levels are shown more, out of curiosity, your interviewer can ask you the internal architectures. Am I clear with you? So having the basic idea or general idea about the technology and the architecture can help you. Remember that. Second thing is, when you give the data, you start storing the data in the tables now. Now, when you're storing the data in the tables, the beautiful concept is you don't need to identify how the data is arranged physically. Means your data is starting from which address, going up to which particular address, where your record is starting with which address and where your record is ending with which address. Nothing of this physical arrangement of the data should be known to you and need not be known to you. Am I clear? Now, understand one point, man. Means finally, if we can understand the rule of RDBMS, and if we can understand the language called as SQL very effectively, don't you think that we can put all our 100% of concentration on the business domain and its relations and start working out very easily without knowing the technology internals? That's where generally many times students ask me, sir, my qualification is so and so. Now, am I eligible for database? For databases, you don't need any technical qualification, man. You just need to have an idea and passion towards understanding data, business, and its relations with the SQL. Be very clear. I don't know whether you're, if I don't know how many of experienced people are sitting in the sessions, man. Just information for you. I don't know when it will happen, but Indian government is seriously thinking, in contrast with the education and job requirement profiles concept that is followed in European sectors and Western men. For doing any particular job in your Western and European countries, is academic qualification is more important or relevant qualification to the technology is more important? What is your opinion? Relevant skill, yes or no? Means I can stop my education with 10th class, do some job according to that, whatever I know. And after 3, 4 years, I realize I want a better lifestyle. And I come and I learn relevant skill. And that relevant skill, if I apply, I can get job in that area, in those countries. Yes or no? Which they call as what? Which they call as certifications. Now, when I don't know whether it really happens or not, because there'll be a great lot of pressure from our education system also. But what Indian government is understanding is we are giving 15 years to 16 years of education for different people in different fields. Now, a person studying mechanical engineering with 16 years of education is coming into IT sector. Now, don't you think that mechanical engineering of education has been wasted now? I mean, the total amount of money and effort kept by the professors, government, institutions on that mechanical engineer is wasted because he's not going into that particular field now. So now Indian government is taking a decision that the very formal education is compulsory. Means up to +2 maybe they will say that education is compulsory. After that, you do your relevant skill and you start developing. Means tomorrow, sir, do I need to do engineering? If you want to do engineering, you can do. But if relevant skill sets are not there, you cannot transform your technology. If this is coming, what happens? Sir, why you are giving this information to us? The only simple thing I'm telling you is, if relevant skills can be developed by anybody, they can come and sit as competition for you. So be careful. So when you come to databases, that's what I say. What is your education? What is your academics? Nobody will care. Relevant skill of understanding, operating effectively with a language called as SQL, understanding the business domain and its relations, you can become a database developer. So don't you think that even a BCom graduate can sit along with a MBA graduate, and an MBA graduate can sit along with a BTech graduate and do the same kind of job here? So this field is especially for anybody, man. Highly paid, highly recognized and renowned also. Because it's for everybody, don't underestimate it. Because we are the foundation engineers for any project. Because can you expect any project in this world in IT can exist without data? No way. Therefore, in the current world, Don't you think that suddenly in the last 5, 6 years, uh, people having specialization in understanding data are becoming a demand now? That's very interesting. Then one of the question is, if I need to really communicate with relational databases, how I can communicate with relational databases? The single language called as SQL will make you do that. Means if you learn your SQL, you can communicate with your RDBMS anywhere it is installed and configured, that doesn't matter. So once the client configures the database with the client software, SQL is the only language that is used to contact the server. So I need to have only what? The privileges, or select, I need to have the credentials of username and password. That's all. And that interface, if it is given to me from anywhere in the world, if I type that username and password and the corresponding address to which my server is basically installed, being in hell or heaven, I can connect to my database and I can start executing my SQL statements. So when you talk about SQL, what are the generic features of SQL now? One very interesting thing is SQL allows the end user or application developer to communicate with the server wherever the server is existing. Means your language for communicating with your server is SQL. Application development with SQL promises very high level efficiency. I mean, the moment you said that you're an SQL developer, man, industry believes that you are an efficient programmer. I mean, the moment I see SQL in your resume, I get one positive state of mindset that this person is a very efficient programmer. In that positive impact I'm having on you, after coming into the interview room, you're doing all the blunders. You just imagine. One very interesting fact about the database interviews is, looking into your resume, 60% the interviewer will come to some positive conclusion. Man. You need to enter into the interview room and you should take your impression from that 60% to higher levels. You don't need to start from the scratch level. Even though this is a very simple activity, 60% people will fail. Why? They don't care the rules of RDBMS. It is a common language for all the RDBMS softwares, which is basically easy to learn and use. You learn any RDBMS, you have a language called as SQL. So transforming yourself from one technology of RDBMS to another technology of RDBMS, is it not very easy? So even though I'm learning my Oracle, then if I got into my industry and suddenly my company is saying that you have to work in Postgres, do I need to get confused, man? No, I need to just understand the environment. Then here the question comes from the student, sir, why I should learn only Oracle's SQL and PLSQL? Oracle's SQL and PLSQL is highly recognized in the industry when it has the highest share. And second thing is the number of features and facilities you have in SQL with Oracle are far more when compared with other technologies in the market. And SQL is functionally complete. It's functionally complete by allowing the end user and application developers to define the required structures, collect the required business data, query and retrieve the business data, manipulate the business data for updating the existing data and deleting unwanted data. So don't you think that if you're learning SQL, you're almost all trying to do major part of the total activities that are expected for a business environment? So it's functionally complete language. 80% of your application development can be confirmed with SQL. That 20% of the dynamics that are expected in the business, which SQL cannot give you, you will integrate with some other technology to SQL and you will work. So that 20% is not developed from the scratch. 80% of the SQL support has to be taken and that 20% dynamics have to be added. Therefore, sir, I'm an application developer, database application developer using Java. Wonderful. Along with the Java, if you don't have that flavor of integration with your database application side, and if you're working, today your job will be secure when after 5 years the industry thinks about it. Today, the situation is so in the market. You work with any technology when you come with zero sense of data knowledge, means understanding data and operating on data. Industries are not taking risk to select you. Now, why SQL is very preferentially good? Because its dialect, the general dialect of SQL is similar to English language. As simple as I'm speaking with you in English and you're able to understand on the other side, when you are working with SQL, the structural understanding will be the same. Be very, very clear about it. So, understanding and learning SQL will be easy technically if you're having some basic sense of English. In the coming days, I'll prove it, man. If your English is bad, then your SQL will be bad. I'm not saying that suddenly you should take your Brennan Martin English grammar books and start reading them. When your client is speaking with you in English, understanding his problem and converting that into SQL is the only skill you need. Therefore, sir, I have some problem with understanding of English. Just develop that, that's all. Because in the coming days, I'll show you, can you convert an English statement into SQL statement? Yes, you're 100% successfully good in your database career, you don't worry. The entire structure of SQL operations is built on collection of statements. Means anything you write in SQL will be a statement only. Therefore, whenever an English statement is given to you, that English statement, can you convert that into a SQL statement? And many times students ask me, sir, shall I learn SQL in Windows or shall I learn SQL in Linux or Unix? SQL is platform independent and it is architectural independent. The final thing is that particular software that supports you for SQL, you should install and you should configure. Your operating system is Windows, your operating system is Linux or anything, that doesn't matter. That has nothing to do. SQL provides standard API to integrate with any business logic technologies that are existing in the world. Standard APIs are provided in the market. Using those APIs, you can connect it to your SQL and you can start working with it. Am I clear? Using SQL, the developer can directly operate on the data without caring the internal technology. You don't need to really know the internal computers or architectural technology, man. Just by understanding SQL, getting connected with the interface, you can start working. Don't you think that SQL is very encouraging environment to really start the career into the IT? So whenever you're working with the constructman, you like or you do not like, any business system is represented in an entity relationship model. If you go to any good companies where standards are very seriously considered, the business system is analyzed and it is fundamentally represented in an ER model. And understanding the corresponding ER model, everybody will work. Everybody will work. I'm not saying that you should become an expert in ER model immediately, man. That really takes time in your career. But if your senior is presenting an ER model, you should have the ability to understand that. So it is an effective system whenever you're working with. You take effective system that is existing in the world. Effective means what? Any system that is practically getting implemented in real time. That is called as effective system. So an effective system always demands the data to be divided into discrete categories or entities. Means you take any business system, in that business system, if any data is there, we don't try to represent the whole data as one single entity, man. We divide the data, means we try to categorize the data, classify the data into different entities. So when you take an ER model, the beauty of the ER model is it will try to illustrate all the various entities of the business and the relationships between those entities in one single diagrammatical state. And why we should really prefer ER model? Because it is built during the system development life cycle. ER model always separates the information required and the business activities that are fundamentally performed. Means it is separating the actual data from the operations of the business. So your data is separated from the operations. So don't you think that technically it's providing you easiness of maintenance in near future? So what are the benefits of ER model? ER model itself is a document. It behaves like documentation in a very clear, precise format to the end users. So if once ER model is designed in your project, trust me, you don't need to really think of designing any other document separately, wasting your time for the sake of data management. And this will act as a document for anybody who is working in your project with any technology, because it provides a clear picture of scope of the information requirement, provides an easily understood pictorial map for the entire database design. One simple picture which tells you the entire design of your database, how it is representing and how it is getting through. ER model offers an effective framework for integrating multiple applications. Once you design one ER model, this model is same and this model is definitely going to be exactly used as it is, irrespective of any technology what you're having in your project. Therefore, for Java developers, we don't have a separate ER model. For Python developers, we don't have a separate ER model. Once one ER model is developed, it is for everybody in the project. So don't you think that all the people are working with the same kind of mindset, synchronizing their ideas and thoughts in the project very properly? Therefore, for any project, if ER model is developed, 150%, the project goes for a very high level success factor, irrespective of the technology of experts. What do you mean by discrete categories or entities that should be considered in ER model? Now just watch carefully, slowly, man. I'm representing some data to you, man. Look into those particular fields and everything, man, for a second of time and tell me whether all this data, what I'm representing there, can be considered which is representing a student or not. Now you should be responding, and then only you'll understand. Else it's a confusion. Can I say that data, what I'm representing is definitely for student? Hello. Generally, if you look into it, it's perfect. Now, just watch very carefully. We are saying that this student is fundamentally working for a, say like is operating for a college man. But do I have information of that college anywhere? Information of that college? No. So this designer, he has categorically understood that one college can have one or more number of students. So he did not keep the college information totally in the student table. Why? If two students are studying in the same college, if college information is part of the same table, don't you think that you're repeating the college information unnecessarily? Hello. If 100 students are there, 100 students are different students, but college information will be the same, which is making you get through the concept of redundancy unnecessarily in the project. Do you agree with me? So he kept another entity called as a college, and that college information will be registered into this table, and only the specific college ID becomes a relation here. By separating the student's information from the college information, don't you think that I made the system not to get into the duplication of the college information with every student now? At the same time, I'm not discreetly keeping the college data and the student data as two separate entities. Any maintenance in student, will it affect the college? Any maintenance if I do in student, will it affect the college? No. Any maintenance I do in college, will it affect the student? No. So am I not making my system become independent by itself in maintenance now? So an ER model is very, very important, man. Now, one college, whenever you are representing it, it can have only one course or many courses. Many courses. Instead of keeping the course table separately, if I add this entire course data into the same college info, don't you think that if 10 different courses are there in your college, you're repeating the college information for every course? Yes or no? Second, in any college, information of course can be definitely dynamic and it can change anytime. So if I keep the course information and college information to one single table, don't you think that technologically it can give maintenance for both unnecessarily? So I'm separating the college information and I'm separating the course information now. Because of separating the college information, course information to different entities, don't you think that we are promising the easiness of maintenance, support, at the same time, we are stopping the redundancy? But remember one thing, college and course are related or not related in practical side. College and course are related or not related? Related. But do we have any relation between these two now? No. But one college can have only one course or many courses. Many courses. So I'm creating one more table called as college ID and course ID, where the college ID from one side will be associated and the course ID from the other side is associated. And I'm not managing the college course information as a separate table now. Because of this, don't you think that if a college is having any number of courses, it becomes easy for me to maintain or not? Hello. And at the same time, are we not decreasing the corresponding redundancy? Now, college should belong to some university. Do you agree with me? So, am I not separating my university information into another entity? And one university can have only one college or many colleges? Many colleges. So don't you think that I'm taking another table and I'm relating my college along with the university to maintain the information of the colleges and universities? So don't you think that here you watch very carefully, man? Each entity is representing one specific area of the business, and by requirement, they are getting interconnected by a concept of primary key and foreign key. Now, once in your life, if you can understand how ER models will come into the picture, don't you think that it's very easy for you throughout your particular life to work with any database project which is on RDBMS? Because any RDBMS implementation will work on the construct of the ER models. Developing ER models and designing ER models, it can take time for you. I'm not saying that in one single day you can become master. But if you say you are a database management system developer by any technology, I don't care, man. But if you can say that you have the basics of understanding and designing ER models, your resume shoots much faster. So it's not this ER model is looking like one simple documentation that can tell you about every object of your business, its properties in the business and the relationships in the business. Once in your life, if you can understand your ER model, is not understanding of ER model in any other project will be the same. And whenever we are working with the construct of the ER models, don't you think that your ER models are also looking like the documentation that can help the other technology people in the field of programming? They are like blueprint men. ER models are like blueprints. And all these ER models and relational database management systems, they are very simple terminology. Entity. It is anything that is significant with respect to which we want to know the information of the business. In design, we call it as an entity. In implementation in the technology, we call it as a table. What I am calling as an entity in my design, if I give my ER model to C++ or Java developers, it becomes a class. For C language developers, it becomes a structure. For Python developers, it may look like a dictionary. Now, an entity is a collection of columns or attributes, which are nothing but the properties that are very much interested to describe that entity in the perfect way. Every column or attribute will have a specific data type in that particular piece of the table where the data is vertically collected. The column or attribute order is not important, means which column should be first, which column should be next in the table, that order is not at all significant. Each column can be either mandatory or optional depending upon the state of its importance in the business. Values collected under each column of that entity in one single instance become one record or row. Each row of information or record of information should be unique by nature. It cannot be duplicated, which is controlled using some concept called as primary key or unique. The order of the rows in your table, in which order they are getting stored, that is not at all important. Means first row should be the first, second row should be the second is not a rule. In your computer, you store it in any order, but when I'm requesting the data, it should come. That's all. Field is nothing but an area where the record and a column are intersecting to give you one specific value of the business. And any field, whenever you are taking, it can have only one value at that intersection point. And certain times, according to business, a field may be a null, means absence of data can be there. Whenever absence of data is identified respective to a particular field, it's called as null. A business is always a collection of rules. These rules of the business are called as relations. The relation is basically any situation that is making you get interconnected between one object of the business to another object of the business. These relations will act as glue sticks to keep your tables together, and where this relation is implemented using the concept of primary keys and foreign keys in your databases. So your data, when it is stored in different categories of entities, it gets isolated. So these all values of the data in the table are pushed together, are called together to get activated and operated by the concept of the foreign keys. It's all one-time learning, gentlemen. So finally, by the end of this course, you're not only going to learn SQL, gentlemen, we will learn SQL along with the rules of RDBMS. Okay? Be very clear. Once you take the rules of RDBMS and you learn SQL, what's the advantage? Nothing. You go into any project or any technology, you don't need to worry, man. It's one-time learning in your life. And keeping yourself confident and sustaining with the job for any number of years. That's our first level introduction towards the database system. Relevant to this, what is that we are going to extend, that will be decided in next 24 hours. Before we leave, one small point, the same meeting link will work tomorrow also, men. From Monday onwards, the meeting link will change every day. And the meeting link will be sent into your mailbox 30 minutes before the actual session. And with the changed meeting links also, you can attend your free demos for another 1 week. And Srinivas will be sending mails regarding the commercials and all those things. Please look into that. And you have your time to see that you can come out with payments in 1 week, man. But remember, your meeting link will not be the same from Monday onwards. It will be changing every day. Okay. With change link also, you can attend for another 1 week of sessions. And then you can take a decision whether you can shake hands with me or not. Tomorrow also we have session, man. Let's see what's waiting for us in tomorrow's class. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Once again with you tomorrow. Have a nice day. Take care of yourself. Have a great day.